We are delighted to have with us today Mr. Eric Tam. Eric has about 15 years of analytics and data science experience in the financial services, startup, and web analytics. He has diverse financial experiences in risk management, quantitative analytics, and energy economy. He also conducted conference workshops for sentiment analysis in finance and published papers on predictive analytics and sentiment analysis. In this webinar, we will hear more about how AI is used in the commodities market, and we will also look at how natural language processing and satellite imagery can be used to measure risk and ambiguity. Over to you, Eric.
Hi, thanks, June. Welcome, everybody, and thank you, June, again. Welcome to today's session on risk and uncertainty in turbulent times, organized by SGX. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank SGX in particular for the invitation to share some of my thoughts on risk and uncertainty in these turbulent times. Well, first, I hope all of you have been doing fine in the midst of this circuit. It's all been very trying for us. Good news for you is it's coming to the end very soon. Okay. For today's, let me first introduce myself very shortly. As Jonas mentioned, I'm a senior lecturer in data science from National University of Singapore. And I have coming to over 15 years of experience in oil and gas and the banking institutions. So my PhD is in the area of finance, and I would like to introduce myself as a tech geeky with financial knowledge and experience. Okay, so what do we have on today's agenda? My plan for today's short session is so that you know a little bit more about this world, about the financial markets, and trying to make sense of how the markets work, especially how technology intertwines with the markets. So it will be a peek into what professional traders do, things with technology, plus with my own knowledge on behavioral finance, maybe just to make things a little more interesting with what is already familiar to you. No, this seminar is not to tell you how you should position yourself in the present market environment. There are enough seminars to do that already. Okay, yeah. So this is our existing agenda. And as I mentioned, this is more of information educational seminar so they can know how the professionals do it. So we're living in uncertain times in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. Recall Donald Rumsfeld, the ex-US Secretary of Defense, quipping, "Are we facing the known unknowns or the unknown unknowns?" Known unknowns are the risks that you're aware of. Risks, the unknown unknowns, are what you do not know, what you don't know. The COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented for this generation and probably for a while more. Known unknowns can be classified as risk, while unknown unknown is a radical uncertainty. A term is coined by Mervyn King in his popular book of the same title, that you don't know the odds. That brings us to our next slide. Now, you're unsure of the odds. You never really know. Let's play a game, a simple game. Suppose you have a coin of two. Suppose you have a choice of two bets. One is a simple coin toss game of a 50-50 coin. Heads, you win $1, and tails, you lose $1. The other game is a little more complex. The coin is unfairly weighted, biased in other words, but I'm not telling you which way. It could be 60-40 towards head in your favor, or 40-60 towards hate, not in your favor. There's a 50% odds that this bias can occur either way. Now, which game do you prefer? Let's do a simple poll and select your choice. Which game do you prefer? Game number 1, in which is a fair coin of 50-50, or game number 2, in which is 50% chance of getting a coin that could be biased in your favor or biased not in your favor. Okay, so I have the results from the presenter. There's about 18 to 11, so more than most people would choose the game number 1. Does it make sense to you? You would choose the one with clear odds. Even though both are expected to return the same winnings if you work it out mathematically, people prefer certainty. In the second game with a bias, if you are a pessimist, you consider that coin may be biased against you more than it is in your favor. This is actually a well-grounded financial principle, or what we call in behavioral finance the maxi-mean theory. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? Well, it's actually the kiasu mentality that Singaporeans are familiar with. When you're kiasu, you consider the worst that can happen and you plan for the worst as well. This planning for the worst or considering the worst outcome, if you think that way, you end up willing to pay less than if you believe the better outcome to happen. That is uncertainty at work. And it's actually what's happening around the COVID-19 pandemic. Recall right at the beginning of the pandemic when it started, a lot of us are uncertain of the future. And it causes prices to drop. And that's why investors hate uncertainty. Now we know more about theory. How does AI help to maybe clear the fog a little bit? But now I need to reiterate that kiasu, in case for some of our international audience, is actually refers to, it's a common Singapore slang that means scared of losing. So many people say that Singaporeans are kiasu, but I would like to stress that this kiasu mentality is not just for Singaporeans. It's a very common behavioral trait that applies to people, to investors as a whole. Now we know the theory. How does AI maybe help to clear the fog a little bit? There are two technologies that professional investors look at. It's a recent wave of new techniques that are sweeping the financial industry. Now recall we have big data and AI. So now it is permitted into the financial industry. These two technologies which I'll introduce to you is first the NLP, or what you call natural language processing. The second is the AI of images. More about that later. First, what is NLP? If you look up Wikipedia, it tell you it is the computational quantification of text to glean information from vast amount of text. It is fast, sometimes accurate, and saves you a lot of time. Text is around us all the time. The social media, the news media, reports, etc. So much text, I would say. So what does NLP does, and how does it come in? When you read a text, what do you want out of it? You want to ask questions. You want to ask questions like, what is it talking about? The companies or the events it's talking about, and sometimes the tone or sentiment of the particular article. This is all possible to obtain through NLP, which really is a branch of AI applied to text in a very quick and computational manner. Now, let's take a look at these two recent statements. Asia shares struggle as coronavirus strains US-China relationships. Earlier, Powell said that he expected economic activity will resume in the second half of the year and maybe even enjoy a good rebound. How will you rate the two statements? Are they positive statements? Are they ambiguous statements? Or are they negative? Pause. Reflect on it on yourself. Probably, maybe the first statement will be quite negative. Quite pessimistic, the sentiment as it goes. And the other one, maybe 6 or 7, there's still some glimmer of light of hope in the particular statement. Now, if you imagine that everyone, the social media users, the internet users, will all to read this, and all this news that's been communicated through news, everyone else would have their own opinion, right? This is what caused ambiguity or uncertainty in the markets. People have their own different interpretations of the text. Now, if you consider this done by a computer or an NLP algorithm, what we call a sentiment analysis, NLP does this for possibly millions of posts aggregating information from the social and news media, so that we get a voice, or rather a tone of the people which make up the markets. Are they feeling good? Are they feeling positive? Are they feeling fearful? Are they feeling greedy? You can only do this with big data and AI. Right? So that's what I meant by what NLP call it in sentiment analysis and using it in artificial intelligence in words. Let's take a look at another slide, another example. This data comes from MarketSci, which is affiliated to Refinitiv, the new name for Thomson Reuters. They obtain the social media tone across all the popular platforms, and they use NLP in order to get a sentiment of what the social media is saying. So this chart that you see over here reflects the social media sentiment tone over the course of about a year. And this interesting period in December, you see there's a bit of a foreboding tone of what people are saying or feeling about in the social media, even before the whole COVID-19 started. It started to take a very big dip from December to January, and it rebounded a little bit in March. So this is all social media. It's all obtained through NLP on the social media text. It reflects the tone of the markets. Now, this is before the STR index. As you all know, everything starts to crumble around in Jan and so forth. Now, this is AI in words. So what's next? What is AI in pictures? Have you seen crude oil before? It's blacky and sticky. You probably wouldn't want to touch it. Now recall a historical event on April 20 when oil prices become negative. That was just before the expiry of the WTI, which is the US crude oil benchmark. It's used by the USA. Many people have written why it happened. Generally because of poor demand, because of the coronavirus, and also due to the lack of storage space in USA. It's made worse in USA because a lot of the oil are inbound, inland. So it's very hard to export the oil. Or in other words, there's nowhere to go, the oil. So could AI have make some prediction either, of the event? Could it have foresee it coming? Here's where AI in pages helps. Now, what we have here is the AI in pages satellite of some of the oil tankers that is which are used to store the oil in Cushing. On your extreme left, you see an almost full oil storage tanker, and towards the right, you see a tanker that's almost half full. I need to reiterate that this comes from tankertrackers.com. So this picture allows you to tell whether the oil storage are they full or are they half full or even almost empty. So if the storage is very full, then you cannot store anymore. And that's why the traders in this case, has near the expiry of the WTI, they cannot bring delivery of the crude oil, and that gives them a lot of problems. I mean, because they are generally a lot of them are paper traders. In other words, they trade based on the money, but they do not take delivery. Now, so how does this help in this case? At this point in time, I'd like to bring you to a particular website, which I put on the chat group as well. So this is a picture of the Google Earth of Cushing, which is the main storage site in the United States. Click on the link above, in the chat group. Right. It shows the image. You can have a live image actually if you click on the Google Earth. Now this image is live if you click on the Google Earth, right? So it does give you a hint of whether the storage tanks are full or not. You can play around with the images. You can see that some of them are probably full. And I noticed, like over the past 1 month, the tanks are starting to be a little bit emptier than what it was a month ago. Maybe that's why nowadays the crude oil prices are getting a bit more sane, I would say. So my idea is to give you a hint of how professional traders work to gauge whether their storage tanks are full or not, which will definitely affect a lot of the crude oil prices near expiry. Okay, so there's a recap of what we covered today. We look at the link between being kiasu and the financial markets. This works when markets are uncertain. You plan for the worst, but you hope for the best. This is how market works, and this is how investors behaved. And we also talk a bit about AI in words and in pictures. The AI in words, in this case, we use NLP on the social media and even on the news articles to know what the millions of investors are feeling and what they are reading through. And we also talk about AI in pictures using satellite imagery to give a hint, to give an idea of exactly what is happening in the oil storage facilities. not only just in cruising, it could also possibly be used in the ship tankers, in any particular storage tanks that are over land as well. Give you an idea roughly. So I hope that you find this talk intriguing of how AI works in the market, and maybe understand of how people behave behaviorally in the markets as well. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you find this short talk interesting and maybe learn something out of it. So these are my contact details, and do keep in touch and let me know your thoughts on the topic with my contact details here. Thank you. Over to you, June. Okay, if you have any questions also, please can put it on the chat group as well.
All right. So thank you very much, Eric, again. Please join me in thanking Eric for the insightful sharing today. We have come to the end of today's webinar. We also thank all attendees in joining us for the webinar session today. We would also like to thank our sponsors for their generous contributions to SGX Blue Charge.